All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a special board meeting of Milpitas Unified School District, July 28, 2020. This is 5 p.m. This is a virtual Zoom meeting, and I would like to call this meeting to order. Roll call. Hon Lin, I'm here. Chris Norwood.
Here.
Kelly Yiptuan.
Here.
Michael Tsai.
Here.
Min Ngo.
Here.
Great. We're all here. All right, moving on to 3, review and approve the open session agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the open session agenda.
There's a motion, so second.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, okay. Thank you very much. We're moving on to flag salute. Scott, would you? Yes, yes. All right. Kelly, would you lead us, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, our flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the
Flag
United States
of the United
America,
States of America
and
and to the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation,
one
under
nation,
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with liberty and
justice
for all.
for all.
all.
Thank you very much. All right. Comments from the public. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2a and .3 preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. If you would like to address the board on any item on tonight's agenda or one that does not appear on the agenda, please go to www.musd.org, complete the public comments contact form, click submit. For items on the agenda, your comment will be read into the record under the comments of the public portion on the agenda. For items on the agenda, your comments will be read at the time of that item. The district asks for contact information from those who's wishing to speak so that staff can follow up on issues brought to our attention. So thank you for your participation in the civic engagement. Moving on to board group agreements.
President Leon, I have some comments from the public.
Oh, apologize again. Yes.
No problem. The first one comes from Robert Jung of North Park Victoria Drive. And his comment is, I encourage the board to consider and support Prop 15, the Schools and Local Communities Funding Act via a board resolution. This will help provide an additional source of funding for our district. Thank you.
Oh.
And we've got, let's see. Oh, that's it. I just had some duplicates on here. And that's all the public comment at this time.
Thank you, Scott. All right, moving on to board group agreements. Member side, would you help me read the board group agreements?
Pull that up on my screen.
Okay.
Okay. Number 1, keep learning and achievements for all students as the primary focus. Ask questions for our own understanding. Be open and honest with each other. No surprises includes unimproved communications with law enforcement, news media, regional elected officials on behalf of the district and or board. Be aware that our community behavior in the community reflects on us as a team. Communicate proactively with each other about topics, questions, and challenges in open session and in advance of public board meetings in compliance with the Brown Act. Participate in professional development and commit the time and energy necessary to be an informed and effective leader. Actively support the culture of we in action, deed, and opportunity to serve the students and parents of the Milpitas Unified School District.
Thank you, Michael. We are moving on to reports. The action item 8.1, second reading for the adoption of Board Policy 6157, distance learning. This is Assistant Superintendent, Learning and Development, Norma Rodriguez.
Good afternoon, board members and members of the public. Today, we're coming together to conduct the second reading of this proposed new policy and discuss for learning and development, the distance of learning. The governing board recognizes that learning can be a viable alternative instructional strategy that supports student achievement of academic goals. Distance learning opportunities may be offered to students participating in independent study, credit recovery courses, enrichment courses, and other courses identified by the superintendent or designee, or in the event that a school site is physically closed due to widespread illness, natural disaster, or other emergency. We are asking the board to have the opportunity to do that second read and discuss and adopt this new policy.
All right. Board members, let's discuss. Have the board members had a chance to read the distance learning, the board policy that was included in the agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Any discussions on this? Or we're good to move?
I have no comments at this time.
Thank you, Vice President.
Same. I don't have any additional comments at this time.
All right. Kelly and Michael?
No comment at this time.
None for me.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Motion to approve distance learning.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I
Awesome.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Seeing none. Distance learning MUSD Board Policy 6157 is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, second reading for the adoption of Board Policy 0470, Philosophy, Goals, Objectives, and Comprehensive Plans, COVID-19 Mitigation Plan. Superintendent Jordan.
This board policy was brought to the board at its last meeting in June. And essentially what it does is it provides for us the COVID-19 strategies for a pandemic. And it is something that can be captured for future in the event that there is another pandemic of how to address such an emergency.
Superintendent Jordan, when you're referring to pandemic and natural disaster or specifically pandemic?
Specifically a pandemic. To your point, though, there are aspects of this that could be applied in the event of days where we have multiple days where the smoke from potential fires are so detrimental to the health that we have to go back to distance learning for a period of time. It could be applied in those cases.
We have the cases of earthquake, we have air quality, and then pandemic. Those are the things potentially happening on the West Coast.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit of the research that was done on the adoption or the creation of this board policy?
Mm-hmm. This is a board policy that was suggested by the California School Boards Association to address the different aspects of closing school and then reopening school during the pandemic. And it addresses the aspects such as PPE, distance learning, social emotional learning, ensuring students have student nutrition, and also that staff that is vulnerable, the precautions for them as far as working conditions. So it also talks about quarantine time, and it talks about when to have students go home or when to have employees go home, and as well as when to close school to in-person learning.
We still doing the research and being mindful of all the other educational institutions across the country in terms of the regions of the country where they're outside of quarantine, yet and still their environments are prepared per federal guidelines, as well as learning from our international education brothers and sisters whose school years started 5+ months ago, who have gone, who have opened, quarantined, closed, reopened, and it's a lot of the different learnings that they've done.
Yes, we are still receiving and seeking out research and articles and experiences of people across the state, the nation, and the world. And we see that most evidently in the work of the subcommittees, as well as school leaders and district leaders and our association leaders.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any discussions for this item?
The only thing that I'd like to discuss or bring up is that we all keep aware of the fact that, you know, we are in one region of the country and this is our primary region. And there are other parts of the country and the world that are further along in the COVID-19 pandemic experience that we can learn from, so that as we work our way through it, there are challenges that we potentially can avoid by learning best practices that what's going on, as well as being mindful of our administrators and both of our associations, who are the ones that are delivering the instruction and the safe environments to our parents, to our children.
Mhm.
I would say that, you know, this is a generally good baseline to start with as we come back to school, as we, you know, get our students educated, and as we continue to learn. There are potentials to update based on the best practices and different amendments. So I just, you know, want to put it out there that, again, this isn't a set in stone, but this is a good guideline to begin with as we continue moving forward.
I generally concur with this idea of a living document. There's still many things about this disease that we don't yet know. And even in the last several months, we've seen the information change. At first, there was an assumption that there could be asymptomatic transmission for up to 14 days. Later, they updated it to 30 days. At first, some people thought that people under a certain age, like young people, were at lower risk or just wouldn't get it at all. And we later found out that that wasn't the case, because some young students did get it and have serious complications from this disease. So yeah, as a baseline, I think it's a good starting point, but we should leave room that as our knowledge of this disease changes, we should be prepared to change the document accordingly. And I would say change it in the direction of assuming this disease is more malignant than we think. If we're gonna overestimate or underestimate the disease, I'd rather we err on the side of overestimating it.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt.
That's Michael move to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, we will adopt board policy 0470. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Superintendent Gordon, Assistant Superintendent.
Mhm. Yes, thank you, board.
Thank you. All right. 8.3, adopt board resolution 2021.1, MUSD educate everywhere, distance learning phasing into 2020-21. Superintendent's office. Superintendent Jordan.
Thank you. And we called this special meeting in addition to doing the second readings of the 2 new board policies. This is the main reason for the special meeting tonight. And that is the resolution regarding distance learning, because as we look towards phasing in the 2021 school year, distance learning is a part of all models. And when I say all models, I'm talking to different schedules of bringing students in person for instruction. And looking at data and science reports that we've been hearing, their likelihood of a vaccination within the next 6 months is unlikely. And so distance learning will definitely be with us as a part of the response to COVID, the pandemic. And it will be an opportunity for us to address future emergency issues, as Vice President Norwood brought up, regarding earthquakes or fires or other instances that require us to move into distance learning for all. And additionally, distance learning is something that those students, as we look to creating different personalized learning pathways for our students, those who flourish in this type of a learning environment, it is something to work towards so that it's available for students beyond the pandemic. And so this resolution takes into account all of the hard work of our team members and our parents and our board members and the community. And I think that you'll see them reflected as we go through it. And then ultimately ending with the need of distance learning at this time. And I'd like to invite those that Mr. Forstner has reached out to read different parts of the resolution, and then before board adoption, have discussion.
Okay. Before we go on to this resolution, there's a public comment, and Scott wants to read that into the record. Scott?
Yeah, we could wait. We should wait till after, but I'll read it now. Sure. Hold on one second. see here. This is actually, okay, this is from Rudula Bolu of Everglades Drive, and their comment is, hi, number one, will school programs like Science and Math Olympiad, Reflections, GOB, Spelling Bee, etc. will be available for kids in 2020-21 school year? Two, MHS volleyball coaches mentioned that if kids choose 100% distance learning, then they cannot be in volleyball team. Is this true? And number three, will MHS debate program continue in 2020-21 school year? Thank you. And that
What
was
was that? What was that last question?
will the MHS debate program continue in the 2020-21 school year?
Okay, thank you. Those are points that we can address in the discussion after we read the resolution. Those are points that I can discuss or respond to after we complete the resolution.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, aren't they aligned with just after the discussion afterwards for the high school?
Yes, that's right. Yes, very, very good point. We have a parent question and answer tonight at 6:30 to 8 p.m. for all of those of you who are viewing. And the topic for tonight is high school. And our principals of Milpitas High School and Calaveras Hills High School will be present, as will a few of the staff members. So those questions will definitely be answered there. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to Resolution 2021.1. MUSD Educate Everywhere, Distance Learning Phasing into 2020-21. Whereas on March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization officially declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. And whereas on March 19, 2020, Governor Newsom ordered all individuals living in the state of California to stay home, except as needed to maintain continuity of operations in critical infrastructures, sectors such as education. And whereas on March 16, March 31st, April 29th, and again on May 18, 2020, the Santa Clara County Public Health Department extended the shelter-in-place order for all except essential workers. And Chris?
Whereas between, I'm like, where am I at, Scott?
Whereas the week of March 16th.
Whereas the week of March 16, 2020 marked the launch of MUSD Educate Everywhere with only 3 days of preparation before the Milpitas Unified School District planning was implemented, and Chromebooks were issued so that students would continue to have learning and instructional experiences while sheltering at home. And whereas between April through July 2020, the district surveyed students, team members, parents, and guardians about their experiences and need for distance learning in MUSD Educate Everywhere, with over 6,000 respondents, and MUSD leaders met weekly and monthly with parents and team members regarding their experience with MUSD Educate Everywhere. And
whereas as of July 28, 2020, district leaders, including board members, the superintendent, executive cabinet, principals, and association presidents have met with 1,118 parents, guardians, and 596 team members, with at least 7 more Q&A sessions planned to discuss phasing in the 2020-21 school year with MUSD Educate Everywhere version 2.0 distance learning and in-person support when conditions are safe. And whereas parents, guardians, teachers, paraprofessionals, principals, secretaries, custodians, specialists, support staff, district and association leaders have expressed a deep desire to serve every learner in the safest means possible and in a culture of we. And
Dr. Lopez?
Sorry. Whereas the MUSD Child Development Centers provide our youngest learners with preschool experiences and are modeling how to provide distance learning while also providing childcare for parents and guardians who are essential workers or are in need of financial support. And whereas MUSD elementary schools serve our learners who have high levels of need for parent and guardian engagement to ensure student safety. And whereas research shows our youngest learners need hands-on activities, social experiences, and closely monitored screen time to ensure healthy brain development. And
whereas parents, guardians, and elementary teachers are partners in providing learning experiences that promote children's health development, and whereas the American Academy of Pediatric states schools are fundamental to child and adolescent development and well-being, and provide our children and adolescents with academic instruction, social and emotional skills, safety, reliable nutrition, physical, speech, and mental health therapy, and opportunities for physical activities among other benefits. And
whereas MUSD middle schools provide our learners with opportunities for self-discovery and experiences in social dynamics, and whereas middle school provides learners with experiences on understanding how literature, science, math, and the arts and athletics are interwoven across content areas through the lens of interdisciplinary teaming, and whereas middle school teachers, parents, and guardians team together to support learners as they grapple with the developmental transition from childhood to teenager. And whereas the California Department of Education states research has shown that the human brain experiences a growth spurt during the young adolescent years that enables the brain to be highly receptive and learn new information and skills. This provides an inspiring opportunity for middle grade teachers to take advantage of their students' optimum capacity to learn. And
whereas MUSD high schools provide our learners with secure learning environments in which to develop further their own interests and sense of purpose in the world. And whereas high school teachers, parents, and guardians work together to provide students with autonomy in their learning and development as they explore pathways toward their future careers. And whereas the high school experience is one in which students explore different interests through an array of subject areas, learning modalities, campus events, extracurricular activity, affinity groups, clubs, and social activities. And
whereas every student, and in particular those learners who need targeted assistance, such as our English learners, homeless and foster youth, and students with learning difficulties, needs support and regular contact with their teacher and support team. And whereas the MUSD special education program strives to serve students in a way that best meets their needs, and whereas special education teachers, specialists, and paraprofessionals, as well as the parents and guardians of students within the program, desire the best possible learning outcomes for their children. And whereas it is recognized that in pre-COVID-19 times, and even more so during the pandemic, that social emotional learning is essential for all. And the Aspen Institute's National Commission on Social Emotional and Academic Development Council of Distinguished Educators states, when social emotional and academic development are deliberately and thoughtfully interconnected, students benefit from learning experiences that enrich their understanding of academic content and strengthen their critical thinking skills. And
whereas the MUSD adult education teachers and support personnel in conjunction with our learners are making it possible for adult students to gain certifications, high school equivalency, English language skills, and competencies that enable them to further develop their job skills and ability to participate in civic responsibility. And whereas on July 17, 2020, Governor Newsom laid out a pandemic plan for learning and safe schools, in which he stated that schools may not implement in-person learning in schools until conditions are safe, and Santa Clara County has had 0 COVID-19 cases for 14 consecutive days.
And whereas on June 9, 2020, the superintendent in her COVID-19 report to the board outlined a phasing in approach to the 2020-21 school year with at least the first month being in MUSD Educate Everywhere, 100% distance learning, and more recently in parent, guardian, and staff meetings with the board president and vice president, has moved the phasing in period to 6 weeks or more, depending on conditions for safety. And
whereas the superintendent and the board of trustees want to ensure to the greatest extent possible that every team member and learner are in an environment where safety precautions are adhered to as per state and local county health guidelines. And whereas the superintendent and the board of trustees adhere to the MUSD mission. We have high expectations for every learner and provide multiple opportunities and pathways for success. We provide learning opportunities for all and create nurturing environments where students are inspired and empowered. Now, therefore, be it resolved that until the state and/or Santa Clara County Public Health Departments deem conditions safe for the phasing in of in-person instruction and learning supports, that the distance learning component of MUSD Educate Everywhere shall be the primary mode of learning, teaching, and working, and
Be it further resolved that the MUSD strategic goals shall be evident in all aspects of distant learning. Building a culture of we, in which parents and guardians are provided with supports through school and district programs such as MUSD parent-to-parent professional development for team members, is robust and frequent within the MUSD colleague-to-colleague platform. And cultural sustainability is both a part of professional learning and is embedded in instruction. And improving communication systems through continuous quality improvement in areas such as virtual meetings, social media, parent square, uniform learning management systems across grade spans, and
developing educational pathways that allow students to apply their passions towards future careers, both in virtual learning modalities and extracurricular activities conducted virtually, such as robotics, Avon Siegel's art, and student-led activities to strengthen school culture and spirit, as well as the development of a MUSD student-to-student learning platform, and focusing service and academic supports to ensure students are engaged in their learning and are making social, emotional, and academic gains, and ensure social emotional learning is a regular component of distance learning, and identify creative student-focused strategies to ensure healthy learning environments virtually. And
be it further resolved that student nutrition will continue to provide students with breakfast and lunch as allowed by state and federal school meal guidelines, and be it further resolved that MUSD will continue to seek and provide opportunities for childcare for essential workers and team members in conjunction with the City of Milpitas and other community-based partners, and be it further resolved that MUSD will continue to seek out and develop revenue-building funding streams to address the costs of COVID-19, and be it further resolved that when possible and conditions are deemed safe by the Public Health Department, in-person instruction and supports will be phased into MUSD Educate Everywhere, and that the Board of Trustees recognizes the exceptional collaboration between parents, guardians, teachers, specialists, paraprofessionals, student nutrition, support staff, school site administration, and district leaders that is going to ensure the best possible educational experiences for all MUSD learners throughout the 2021 school year.
All right. Passed and adopted by the Milpitas Unified School District Board of Education at the meeting held on the 28th by the following vote. I'm going to call out Vice President Norwood,
Aye.
Board Clerk Kelly Yitron,
Aye.
Board Member Minyo,
Aye.
Board Member Michael Sy. Michael,
Aye.
okay, and for me, aye. So that's on the vote of Resolution 2020.1 MUSD educate everywhere distance learning facing into 2020-21. Superintendent.
Oh, you're turning it over to me. I thought you were going to ask me a question.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. As you can see, community and team members and board members, we've done a lot to ensure that our students, our learners, have the best that we can give them with what we know at the present moment. And our teachers, our classified members, our paraprofessionals have been attending our colleague to colleague, our C2C, special developmental workshops regarding how they can improve their work and their instruction, and how they can learn how to use different tools that will enhance instruction for distance learning. They've all been working diligently to improve their own skills. And they've been doing this for the most part on their own time. And in some cases, paying for workshops out of pocket and planning what they want to do for their learners when school starts on August 13th. And as you know, if you've been to our parent Q&As, that we've had 215 subcommittee members made up of employee representatives, students, and parents, working on 14 different aspects of our 2021 school year, planning for working in distance learning with some in-person support when conditions are safe. And in addition to that, we have 45 of our advisory task force members who also have been contributing a great deal of time. And we'll hear about their plans at our next special board meeting on Monday, August 3rd. So I just want everybody to hear the gratitude and amazement and unique sense of accomplishment that we can all value and be proud of as a part of MUSD and a part of the community of Milpitas. I know you board members have been working in various aspects, either with service groups or working with city leaders to ensure that our families in the community have masks, they have food. You've been looking at ways that they can have funds for new school clothes, and you've been listening to a large number of parents and employees and students about their experiences, their concerns, their hopes. Everybody has played some part in where we are at this moment in time. and is continuing to play their part in our success. And we know from the July 17th executive order from the governor that until the county is no longer on the watch list, that our secondary students will be in distance learning MUSD Educate Everywhere for 100% of the time. And at the elementary level, we know that it is possible for us to do a waiver so that we can have in-person support. And so in talking with our leaders about the difficulties of making sure that we have all of the pieces of information and data about what our student needs are and our team member needs are as far as their vulnerabilities, I have decided, and with your support and direction, that I will pursue a waiver for providing in-person support in addition to special ed students, also for elementary students who are struggling, who are having difficulties with distance learning, who are vulnerable because of their life circumstance, because of their economic circumstance, because of their English language skills. And I've consulted with our association president, Diana Orlando, as well as our elementary principals. And they would very much like for us to be committed to phasing in for distance learning for as long as the county is not safe overall, except for in very small groups. And so in the applying for the waiver, it will be understood that our teachers who are willing and able because of their health, and that we can ensure in the classroom that there's safety, that we will bring in small groups of students for targeted assistance and in-person instruction. And in additionally, our teachers have, from what the principals told me today, a number of teachers have been in their classrooms preparing them to be learning studios, and that, and thinking about how they can use their classrooms as a tool in the distance learning. And our teachers, I know, because I've heard from them directly through emails, through our team halls, I know you each have, they want to have some sort of direction that they can settle on so they can really get good at distance learning without worrying about if tomorrow they're going to be on hybrid learning models or not. And what I want to do in applying for this waiver, and even beyond, because we also have the secondary where we don't, where we can't apply for the waiver, I want all of us to commit to being the best distance learning model that we could possibly be, so that MUSD Educate Everywhere version 2.0 is something that everybody's talking about, because our learners feel accomplished, our parents feel that they are supported, our teachers, our paraprofessionals, all of our classified members, all of our leaders, they all feel that their efforts are making tremendous impact because they feel capable. And the way for them to feel capable is to have a relief from anxiety and sense of direction about how to prepare for the beginning of school. So with your direction, I am going to apply for the waiver for elementary and special ed for in-person targeted support for small groups of students, providing that conditions are safe.
Yes, I'm happy that the principals are stepping up and agreeing to, and with the support of our MTA president, Diana Alonso, to have 100% distance learning, and you're asking for the waiver to bring in the vulnerable and most needed students in smaller groups. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Can you go back for just a second? I'd like to the resolution
Yes.
on Scott, could you bring up the resolution?
Sure, Chris, no problem. Hold on.
Do a search for the
There you go, Chris.
do a search for the term support staff.
Can I search the
Can you search for that?
PDF? I don't know if I can do that.
There it is right there in that paragraph you just passed.
Oh yeah, right here.
Are we, and when we say support staff, are we referencing the classified team members?
Yes.
Could we change that?
Uh-huh.
So everywhere there is the term support staff, and whatever we do, we recognize them as classified team members.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Is that all, Vice President?
You have to do it now, but just make sure we get it done.
Yep, we'll do that, and then before we do signatures.
Awesome. Could you bring up the agenda for me, Scott?
So the next item on the agenda is the adjournment.
Hold on a sec, Harm, please. We did the resolution, board policy, review, adjournment. Okay.
Are we good? Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'm good. I'll move to adjourn.
Is the second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Seeing none, meeting adjourned. See you guys again in 30 minutes.